disclosure, news and commentary. It's the second one, 2025, the February edition. Now, I originally started doing these again, full disclosure, because I had a sponsor. The sponsor has not kicked in the money yet from the first one. And so I was seriously debating not doing the second one. However, the whole reason I wanted to start doing these in the first place, besides the money, which is to talk about Rob Jones, the unadulterated piece of shit, I've now been given the green light. So that's what I would like to do. Lost a little weight, by the way. Some of you remember me with a beard, like this guy over here. I don't have a beard, a little skinnier. But we're about to get into this. So, Rob Jones. He's a guy who attempted to make people's lives hell. He fancies himself as some kind of like reporter who covers the wrestling business on his shitty podcast. By the way, good podcast. Tipping Point this summer will hit 8 years. Larry and I have been doing that for 8 years. But back to Rob Jones. So, Rob Jones, how did I know this guy was a piece of shit? When Larry Goodman brought up some facts to him, his response was, well, technically you're correct, but if you are a self-professed reporter who says the phrase, well, technically you're correct, but, or something else that indicates, well, I mean, I'm not going to let facts get in the way of my little rant. What Rob Jones was hoping that was by going after Rick Michaels, he would scoop everybody and be seen as this big deal. And he would be seen as this guy who was unabashedly on the side of right and just had the moral high ground. And what he quickly found out was people didn't like him. What he also found out was that he didn't know everything. And what he also found out was he was right about very little. And he was just like a lot of the jack-offs who cover pro wrestling, who kind of make shit up as they go along, and then they have their own bullshit agenda, and he just didn't get everything out of it that he wanted. And by the way, his partner in the podcast is no longer there, right? Just curious. So everything I'm about to say about Rob Jones, from here on in, we're just going to say it's alleged. Alleged. But it sure is juicy, so let's get into it. So I'm looking at a series of posts this fucking schmuck has made. This loser who airbrushed AI pictures of women that he's claiming he's got this 8-inch schlong in one of them, but none of the others. Little weird there. We're going to get back to that, by the way, because it's going to factor into a little digging I allegedly did. And you're going to want to stick around for that. It's a lot of fun. So let me just kind of go through this list of stuff that people have given me. That's one of the best things about doing full disclosure again, is unlike non-pseudo reporter Rob Jones, people actually send me shit, even though I'm not a reporter. What I am is a guy that will call out an asshole. And so they were more than happy to share stuff with me. Here's Luca Daniels making fun of him. Hopefully you can contain yourself at the show in regards to this post he made about his 8 inches. And then... And Rob Jones begging, oh, I edited this stuff out from this episode. Would it be okay if I posted the episode now? Oh, who's this one? For sure my favorite Hooters girl. You're dime, no doubt. He loves this phrase dime. Somebody gave the white boy a slang, and he's very, very excited about it. Um, Perhaps he likes dimes because his supposed 8 inches is more like a stack of dimes in his pants. We'll get to that in a bit. Um, See, you're from Houston. Do you work one of the H Town? Oh, H Town. He's hip as fuck, guys. Hooters locations. I'll be there in a few weeks for work and would love to come and leave a major tip for you if possible. Oh my God. More. Who's this broad? I don't know. No booking through DMs or social media. Please contact my WhatsApp or my number. Both are listed on Trist and my website. He goes, where can I find your tour schedule, beautiful? I would love to see you. I would love to see you. He reposted this broad, Holly Saunders, how to make a birthday boy happy, and he just reposted it. Southerner here, but you're so fine. Thinking of visit Canada to see you. What the fuck does that mean? You should do an American tour, especially down here in the South. Had a chance over the weekend to hang out and help the lovely Alexia Shippey celebrate the launch of her new business. Mr. Homegrown Famous kicking it with the upstate's It Girl. Oh my God. Thank you. Oh, the post was deleted by the post author. It was obviously a girl who was talking about the fact that she could do a custom video. And so Rob Jones, by the way, is down south swagger. Thank you for the gift that keeps giving. Would love to have a video from you. Do you do that, and how much? Here's a picture from Cinderella. She's got 3 big D's in the middle of Cinderella because she's got big boobs. She's clever, and Rob loves it because he said, that look is fire on you. Ooh, he said fire. So young and hip. Looking like Cinderella with an S, like she commits sins. You're $1 worth of dimes by yourself. That's 10 of them. Wow. What's more? Oh, on his repost of the Holly Saunders picture, he says, with this goddess, I'd feel like every day was my birthday. Yes, Lord. Please say that's it. Oh. Rob's post, Rob Jones. What is this? All men are created equal. The separation is created by drive, determination, accomplishment, and integrity. When all you do is lump everyone into the same category, like he does in his reporting, you could really be missing out on the people who work their whole lives to create separation. And that's it. Merciful gods. But it's not really it. Here's why. I happen to be friends with a couple of very prominent Instagram model types and OnlyFans girls. And when I mean friends, I mean legitimate friends. I know them. They know me. We have each other's phone number. Not flexing. I'm just letting you know because it's important for this part of the alleged story of Rob Jones. So out of curiosity, I figured if this guy was posting and hitting up all these, in my opinion, B-listers as far as OnlyFans and Instagram model types go. I'm not disparaging them, but they're obviously like super fake and super filtery, and he falls for all of it. He goes for all of it. So if he's going for them, then I figured my friends, who I would consider higher end, probably have had contact with him. So I was curious. So I contacted a friend of mine, and sure enough, she keeps files on anybody who might be creepy. Did she have a file on Mr. Rob Jones? Allegedly, I'm just going to keep saying allegedly, so that way I don't have to hear from the intrepid reporter. Allegedly, She did. And allegedly, he was super, super creepy. See, the vibe I get from all of these posts and the vibe I got from my two friends, wait till you hear what the second one's going to tell us. That's hysterical stuff. And it has to do with his alleged 8 inches, which it's not. Um, but what's so funny about this is famously, uh, a group of guys a few years ago when I got into a legal scrape, guys who most people would consider to be super nice guys in the Georgia area, went out of their way to uncover any dirt about me that they could. And so what they found out is I had done some jail time. And then they sent that to a guy who everybody pretty much regards as a piece of shit. So he would release it and he would cover up the fact that they did it. And then that way I would get got. But the problem with it was, it is what it is. So, like, to Rob Jones, if he was going to try to uncover that, it's already been uncovered. So it doesn't bother me. Because I may have been in a cell, but at least I'm not an incel. You feel me? So, Rob, once I found out that a file had been started by the one friend of mine, because she's very careful legally, sometimes things escalate to the point where she has to get restraining orders and things like that. Now, she didn't have to do that for Rob Jones, allegedly. But what she did note was that he was creepy enough with his contact that she started the file. So then she led me to a mutual friend and said, boy, if he's contacting me, he's definitely contacting this other person because she's right. She's exactly his type. Big boobs, super thin, kind of unnatural proportions. And she's very friendly. Her outgoing personality, that's the kind of thing that he goes for. And allegedly, Rob sent her pictures of his supposed member, the famous 8 inches. Except when this image was run through a Google search, allegedly, that it turns out, allegedly, that this picture was in fact not Rob Jones. It came up in a Google search from a place that wasn't linked to any of his accounts or his name. Meaning, allegedly, Rob Jones, this pathetic, loser, simp, sucker, did an audition for dick pics so he could send unsolicited dick pics to women that weren't even his dick. There are losers. Then there are pathetic losers. And then there is Rob Jones. You poor, pathetic piece of shit. People often go on, and the Kevin Ryan thing's an example. I thought Larry's coverage of that story was about as even-handed and well-worded as you're going to get. I saw where Carly Bravo said, we should stop talking about Kevin Ryan. And I get that mentality. But as pathetic as Kevin Ryan's whole deal is, and some would say, oh, God, super predator, 17 years old and he's 20, whatever. No. Pedophile, la, 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 la. It's not a pedophile. It's nitpicking, but it's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, when I look at Kevin Ryan, I go, to me, it's just another guy. It's symptomatic of a guy who is incredibly lonely. And this might seem like I have sympathy for him. I don't. But a guy who's I'm just spitting nuance and facts to you. It's what I do. Everybody else goes off the rails, and I'm going to kick his ass. And they don't do any of it. I'm telling you my take on it to give you a little bit to think about. For Kevin Ryan, I see a guy who is pathetically lonely, and especially post COVID, unable to have normal connections, and so tends to gravitate towards younger people who are more apt to be open with him. Because even this girl who outed him or busted him obviously had conversations with him of a certain nature at some point. Does it matter the fact that she was probably not a blushing virgin? It doesn't, in one sense. But in another sense, it lets you know the kind of morass that young people are in, whether they're slightly below 18 or over it. But this Rob Jones is a fucking loser. A loser. The kind of guy that my friends make fun of incessantly. The kind of guy, when I bounced at a strip club, that the strippers would laugh and laugh and take every last dollar off of his stupid ass. And he was happy to give it. He's the kind of guy that is the reason that Hooters waitresses touch your shoulder when they come by. Because he gets his little stack of dimes up and his wallet opens. Because that's the only way that he could ever possibly get attention from a woman. But the truth is, that guy couldn't get laid with $100 bill coming out of his zipper in Thailand. Rob Jones. When people talk about embarrassments to the wrestling business or disgraces to the wrestling business, or we need to get this person out of the wrestling business or that person out of the wrestling business, and Rob Jones certainly considers himself one of those arbiters, one of those guys who should determine who should be here and who shouldn't. But I ask you this, at the end of the day, has Rick Michaels helped you out in the wrestling business? Even people that don't like him would have to admit that he probably has. But what has Rob Jones done for you? Nothing. All Rob Jones is done is make a bunch of women a little bit richer. Because he is a little bit lame. You know, people have been waiting for me to bury Rob Jones. And I can see why. Because he's infinitely dislikable. But I'm not doing this just because he's unlikable. I'm doing this because he ain't shit. Because the things that he would label himself as are all lies. He is a fraud and a hypocrite. He's not a reporter, because a reporter, when presented with facts, would have retracted his statement. He's not the tough guy he appears to be, or I wouldn't have had these multiple messages where he's going, oh, it's okay, I did take this thing out. Can I put this thing out now? And a guy with southern swagger would need to beg filtered pictures of women for attention. Second wrestling topic. Next Level starting. Their show is Saturday. I find that show intriguing for a number of reasons. I was privy to the original booking of the show when it was going to take place in January, and it was fantastic. This, I don't know. Would Josh Fields and Next Level been better off just finding another venue on the same date? We're going to find out. Can Ace handle the pressure of having to rebook an entire show with an entire different cast of characters for the most part? We're going to find out. So far, if I'm being honest, from the outside looking in, I'm also on the inside, but from the outside looking in, I will say that there are so many things about it that I find milquetoast and unappealing. I thought the poster and the episode 1 thing If you're going to go that route, I think you go all the way. Instead, everything looks like a knockoff of everybody else. I am so bored with everybody's posters where you have a bunch of wrestlers on it. Then again, if you don't put a bunch of wrestlers on it, then they get mad. But I never gave a shit about that. I was all about the best posters I could do. Yeah. Next Level has a great deal of expectation to live up to. Especially because the idea of the show that draws on the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds has become a bit passe. The last awards show showed the era of Southern Honor has passed us by. The era of IWE is definitely done. Viral went from drawing what they drew for the Joe Hendry show and then missing a show and then coming back with 200 and then two in the 200s again. If 2024 and part of 23 was about brewery shows, and before that it was about shows that drew in the 4 to 500s. Now we're into this boutique era. Groups like Action, which occasionally do draw a lot more than 200. For the most part, you're looking at 200. There's a whole slew of groups doing great work that draw anywhere between 50 even, but mostly 100 to 200. And these boutique wrestling shows have taken over. They're the most fun shows to wrestle. They're the most fun shows to work. They're the ones that have the most ambition. And at the awards, we saw groups like Coastal get rewarded. We saw AWE take home an award for Show of the Year. By the way, the changing of the structure of the awards, where we go all the way to the end of the year, benefited them greatly. These adjustments that have been made to the awards over the years, spearheaded by people like me or Larry or Rob Rod, and now others who have joined in, are all great, and they're all positive. And everything I heard about the awards show from a hosting perspective was wonderful. Carly Bravo, Zicky Dice, Diana Michelle did a great job. But Carly Bravo did a particularly great job because he's got it. Wrestling always needs people who have it. I would say Carly Bravo has a full, real, girthy 8 inches of talent. Good for you, Carly Bravo. And thank you for making those awards look so great. I'll be the first to say, when Naja was going to run these awards, I just thought, oh no. And the funny thing is, the more that these awards get stripped down, the better that they get. I think, I'll just say it. My one critique that I hear is like, fuck the food and fuck the fucking music. Nobody cares. The closer they are to the idea of like the old PCW roasts that happened post Sacred Ground, the better off you're going to be. Because it's really about everybody getting together and celebrating each other and enjoying the moment. But is Next Level going to enjoy their moment? I will say that they have dug themselves into a corner. That doing this show February 15th, the first one there, puts a lot of pressure on them. And now they have to maintain a monthly show. When that new venue opens up, that will improve things, I guess. But at the end of the day, the cliche is you only have a first chance to make a first impression. And hopefully Ace and company are really able to do that. I'm hoping a lot of unique things happen. I'm hoping they give us something to talk about. And certainly in my next full disclosure video, which assuming my sponsor comes through, because if my sponsor doesn't come through, I got to tell you, I'm going to call him out on the next one. I think that the analysis of that show, especially in light of this weekend, where there are so many huge shows, so many things happening, all these boutique smaller shows are running these big deal things, and we're kind of coming out of the thaw of there's no more football as an excuse on why he rings it. We have shows going on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Big stuff all across the board. Um, it's such an exciting time in Georgia and beyond, wrestling wise. That next level, which really has the runway cleared for them, right? IWE is gone. Though I saw that the Mayhem title was going to be defended on somebody else. Who gives a shit, right? They're done. Um, they're gone. And so it's up to next level to go in there. And the pressure is realistically on. You got to knock it out of the park. Um, a lot of talk's been said about sponsors, and they've got money, and they're able to hire whomever. Um, we'll see what happens. The non wrestling thing I'm going to talk about. Last time I talked about where my life was. Um, and I've changed what this topic is going to be a number of times. But I just watched the finale of Cobra Kai. In the last season of Cobra Kai, they divided it up into 5 episodes, and then they released another 5 episodes a month later, and now they've released the final 5 episodes of the series. It is done. And as somebody who was a huge Game of Thrones fan and had to watch that show crash and burn, culminating with a season 8 so bad that it made my former fandom feel stupid. Not as stupid as Rob Jones being exposed for a dipshit who comments on women's posts, who wouldn't touch him with an 8-inch pole, but stupid in the sense that that's a show that I've rewatched the opening seasons again and again and again and again, and since season 8 happened, I haven't watched it since. I can watch clips on YouTube again, and maybe it's going to warm me up to getting back into that series. But it just never recovered. It started sliding downhill, and then the slide got worse and worse and faster and faster and faster into one of the most unsatisfying ending. The anti-Breaking Bad, if you will. Just horrible. And we can debate intellectually. Well, if they could have, if they spent more. It just didn't work. Whereas Cobra Kai, in particular in the last season, the first 5 episodes and then the next 5 episodes, I thought they'd strayed so far away from the intent of the show and the heart of the show. I found it unwatchable almost. It was something I had on in the background where it was never that show. The kids and I would look forward to when they would release them on New Year's Day. We would spend the day and binge watch all 10 episodes. We love that show so much. And so for the show to become this like esoteric thing where they're in Barcelona competing in this tournament and none of the stakes felt real or important and none of the personal things with the kids felt relevant or interesting, I gotta say this last 5 episodes reminded me again that sometimes you catch the Hail Mary when you're willing to throw it. It might be the greatest recovery of a show that seemed doomed in its final season I have ever witnessed. It was so satisfying. It was a lot of fan service, don't get me wrong, but they did it by returning to the heart of what that show was about and finding their ways to write themselves out of every corner they had boxed themselves into. It is truly, truly wonderful. And it still had the over-the-top, unrealistic elements, but they used it to their advantage to give you things that were so satisfying and ridiculous that I just couldn't help but smile and laugh out loud and wish I was sharing them with somebody. That's how good it was. It's a reminder. Yeah. Just because you're sliding down artistically as a wrestling show or a wrestling card or as a performer, you can still throw up a Hail Mary. But the key is you have to remember the heart of what makes your thing work. What is your identity? What is the thing that makes you unique? What is the thing that connects you with an audience? That's what art is. And some people like Jim Cornette might not like the word art used in conjunction with professional wrestling, but that's exactly what the fuck it is. It's something solved through the medium of violence, yes, but it is an artistic venture where the medium of exchange is simulated violence. Now, if that sounds too esoteric and not very exciting to you, and people especially don't like it when I call it fake fighting in your underwear, just think of it as an artistic venture. And so my challenge is this: what can you do? What can you do to elevate you? What can you do to elevate the show that you're on? Bookers, promoters, what can you do to stand out even more? What can you do to tell us your story, to connect your audience emotionally to the promotion at large? We've seen people shamelessly do this, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, why the fuck are you worth our time and money? I've often said that performers are super arrogant, even the ones that are humble, because what they're saying is, what I do is so good it is worth your time and money. And that is inherently arrogant. But very few people live up to that, right? The problem isn't the fact that restaurants are so expensive. The problem is most of them aren't worth the money. Because if they're worth the money, nobody balks. Trust me, I work at 4 of them. Hey, you know how many W-2s I had from 2024? 8. I worked for 8 different restaurants alone in 2024, enough to warrant getting a W-2 from them. So I know a little something about the restaurant business. And I'd say I know a little bit about the wrestling business as well. It's not too late. But, as I've said before, must a thing exist? And the answer is no. Everything dies. Everything goes away. It's the natural cycle of things. And even though we still consider ourselves in this peaceful era where everybody's getting along, right now, how we're seeing that play out is this parity, where people are doing well, but they're not doing insanely well. Maybe artistically, but not in terms of draw. And the reason is free wrestling is all over the place. And quite frankly, people seem a little tired of that too. They're a little tired of Raw. They're a little tired of everything. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, is making a loud enough noise. Get our head to snap over there. And then they're not doing a good enough job sustaining. What makes you great? What makes you worth watching? I don't want to hear about your fucking dream. I don't care about your dream. I want you to sell me. It's all sales. And I hate this, but it's true. And I teach my kids much the same. It's all sales. And the sooner you figure that out, the sooner you figure out that it's all about salesmanship and whatever that entails, you're never going to master this thing. That goes for promoters, bookers, wrestlers. Hell, it goes for referees and ring announcers. Until you figure out that you're a salesman, all of you guys who watch matches and, oh, look at Hogan in Japan doing enziguri, whoopity fucking do. You're better off watching the great sales speeches from movies. You're better off watching Alec Baldwin in Glengarry and Glen Ross. You're better off watching Ben Affleck talk in Boiler Room than you are watching matches that you're not learning a fucking thing from. Because you're not seeing the right things. And when it comes to angles, originality, being able to sell merch and all that stuff, If you haven't figured out that it's about closing, if you haven't figured out that it's about connection and then closing, A always, B, C closing, then you haven't figured out this wrestling thing at all. If you think it's about impressing the boys, it's not. Though to an extent it is, honestly. But beyond that, it's about closing. Getting them to sign on the line that is dotted, whatever that means in any context. Getting them to give themselves over. My kid gave a performance, did a little play. A series of small plays happened, and my kid was one of them. And even though my kid is a phenomenal performer and the performance itself was good, my kid was upset because it did not get the reaction out of the audience that it was. I was glad to see it because this kid is. My kids tend to succeed at everything. My oldest one is going to Princeton on a full ride. My youngest one is going to a national competition for this, that, and the other. So I was glad to see them fail. And they failed because of the writing, because that's the thing I could help them with the most. And we had a big, long talk about it, and they felt good by the end because they knew that they had figured out what was wrong, and now they could work to fix it because they were open to fixing it. We'll see what Next Level does. We'll see if these other groups that did so well at the awards can maintain their momentum. We'll see if the groups that are well received but don't draw very well can figure out that promotion is an important part of the game. We'll see if other promotions just wither away and die. And we're seeing that all the time. Groups that talk a big, huge game and then they don't run. Well, other people see that as a tragedy. I see that as inevitable. In any case, let me go ahead and put this up so it can be sent to the masses. What shows are you going to this weekend? What are you about to see? And for goodness sakes, with the few exceptions, once in a while people will send me a promo that they've done or a match that they were in. I love watching that stuff. But I gotta say, no one's doing anything right now that's making me desperate to see what they're doing. My challenge to you is, were you a part of something really great? Something so great that you think you could send it to me and I would watch it beginning to end with rapt interest. That is the standard. That is what I would like for you to try to do. Does that mean, oh, we have to impress Steve? You don't have to do anything. But I'm just saying, if you can't close me, then I don't want to fucking hear how great you are. Go have an 8-inch day, allegedly. This has been Full Disclosure.